So let's continue with tutorial 3 of module 1.1. In this tutorial, we are going to discuss about the foundation, instruction tuned and reasoning LLMs. In terms of the learning objective, we'll see that it is K2 or the level is K2. So you have to basically understand in a little bit more detail. So what are the training stages of large language models? So the large language models are trained in different stages to enhance their effectiveness for the wider range of tasks. First, the training stages will be in a couple of stages. So there are mainly three stages: foundation LLMs, instruction tuned LLMs, and reasoning LLMs. So this is what we are going to understand when we say foundation LLMs or instruction tuned or reasoning LLMs, what exactly these stages are and how these LLMs are trained in different stages. So you can think of these stages as say, for example, if we take an analogy of the school, then foundation LLM or foundation training is more of a like general education of the school. Say we are enrolled in the school, we are learning from the very basic. That's the general education. If we talk about the instruction tuned, it is more of instruction tuned is like learning to follow the directions. So more of a practical approach. Somebody has provided you directions, a guided exercise. Are you able to follow that guided exercise or not? Then there is a reasoning level, or reasoning is like the advanced problem solving. What we learn in the advanced studies, say universities, we are able to reason, and moreover, when we get into the job, when we get into our fields, are we able to resolve the issues? Are we able to think holistically and solve the problems? Do we have acquired the problem solving skills or not? So reasoning is more of that stage. So these are three stages of the training stages for the LLMs. Now, what are the categories of the LLMs? So foundational, instruction tuned, and reasoning. So based on these learning stages, you can categorize the LLMs whichever have been trained at that specific stage. For example, if we talk about the foundation LLMs. So foundation LLMs are trained on huge data sets. For example, the text, code, images. These can do many tasks, for example, language, vision, speech, and need the adaptation for the specific task. So foundation LLMs will need adaptation if you want to perform the specific task. For example, a foundation model can read text but may need tuning to be used in generating code. So when we say foundation LLM, very specific task based on whatever training has been done of the content, they'll be able to perform well in that. But then if you are using it in another context, for example, generating the code, they might need more fine tuning or more training. Instruction tuned large language models are the models that are derived from the foundation model. So as these are all stages, so if you have foundation large language model and you fine tune it, you instruction tune it, then it becomes instruction tuned large language model. Okay. If you just use it in the foundation level, that's foundational large language model. So instruction tuned is derived from the foundation model. Instruction tuned LLMs are fine tuned using data sets that pair prompts with the expected responses. More of fine tuning that foundation LLM to perform more of instruction tuned responses. For example, it is very good at following the human instructions. When, say, for example, summarize this bug report, it will give a clear structured answer. So fine tuning, when we say instruction tuning LLM, you have the foundation large language model, you instruction tune it with a certain task or for a certain need, then that becomes an instruction tuned large language model. If you're just using it at a foundation level, that's foundational large language model. Then we have the reasoning LLM, again the third stage or the next stage of the learning. Reasoning model are then extended, or they extend instruction tuned large language model. Okay, so they further extend the instruction tuned model by emphasizing the structured cognitive abilities like the logical interface, like how the human brain thinks logically. So it has the logical inference, multi-step problem solving, chain of thought reasoning. That is more of reasoning. When you train more, when you retrain the model more to have the reasoning capability, then that is reasoning LLM. Reasoning LLMs can handle complex technical tasks. For example, it can analyze the test logs, it can find or it can suggest you the code. So reasoning LLM is the stage which is further to the instruction tuned stage. So as we have understood about different stages, the key stages, whichever model you have trained in a particular stage, if you're just using it at that level, that is that large language model. For example, example, foundation LLM, if you train it further as an instruction tuned process, then it becomes instruction tuned large language model. If you train it further or extend it further on top of instruction tuned model to reasoning stage, then that becomes reasoning large language model. Okay, that's the categorization of the large language models. Now, what is the application in the software testing? So both instruction tuned, sometimes referred to as non-reasoning, and reasoning LLMs are utilized in software testing. So when we say instruction tuned, which is non-reasoning, which is very good for, say for example, summarizing the defect report, specific task, right? Summarizing the logs, which is the foundation LLM. On top of it, it is instruction tuned for specific tasks. It is really good and it is used in that case. Reasoning LLMs are the LLMs we are using nowadays very frequently, which needs complex task requirement, multi-step logic, analyzing long test log, writing the code, right, suggesting the code. So that's where reasoning LLMs will be really helpful. Now the selection depends on the task complexity and where you are using. So not necessarily that you'll always need instruction tuned or reasoning LLM. Specific requirement, you will use the LLMs accordingly. For example, instruction tuned LLM is really good if you are using it to generate the test cases for a specific functionality. Okay, for example, you have instruction tuned the model for a specific testing task to create the test plan, the test case, then those LLMs will be really good in that space. If you want to analyze multiple login failure or the reasons for the failure, root cause analysis, then in that case reasoning large language model will be really helpful because they have enhanced capabilities for understanding the overall picture in the code, in the failure. Okay, so these are the applications in the software testing. So that's all about this tutorial. In the next one, we'll cover another topic of the ISTQB generative AI testing certification. Thank you.